Guess who's back?
Hey everyone, Genome here, come at you with a contest entry. Yeah, that's right, I haven't done one of these in quite some time now, as, you know, there's always something else coming up. But I found one, actually through another channel, that I thought might be fun and fairly easy to do, so let's go to it. This is the contest entry for EvilStevel's Road to 350 Subs contest. So hey, congratulations on making your mark in those early days of YouTube. I know how hard it is. I barely got there myself in the last year or so. So he has a pretty interesting little contest going on. It's a nice little prize. It's basically the entire box set of the Puppet Master series, and there's a ton of them out there. So, plus it came with like a little figurine too, which is kind of cool. But I haven't watched this movie since the 80s, or at least the first couple of ones. I didn't even know they went that far in the series. But anyway, I digress. So, what are the criteria? Well, it's real simple. You just gotta answer 3 questions, and then post a link in the video description of his contest. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. The first one was to tell the people what is your favorite friendly insult. You know, the kind of insult you give to your buddies or friends and all that.
You moron!
And I don't really have a set in stone one. I know, like, from the military, if I run into my military friends, we always make fun of each other's weight. Like, as soon as we get there, we'll go right into it on each other. It's pretty fun, you know, like, hey, you're gonna bust tape and other assorted colorful phrases. But I guess the next closest one would be I have a friend. I'll always go up and I'll start rubbing my belly, and it's like, oh, you are a sexy beast, you know, something like that. And
do I make you horny, baby? Do I? Do I make you randy? Yeah.
it's old and passe, but whatever. It's still a golden oldie, so that's probably my favorite one. Other than that, I just wing it. For the second one, it's a 2-part question, and it has to do with horror franchises. I guess. I don't know if it specified horror. I'm going to assume it did specify horror. I forget. The first question is, which franchise do you want to see completely stopped? And I would probably have to say Child's Play. I think that one's played out. I think it stood much better as a standalone movie. You know what I mean? Like,
example.
Honestly, I know there's fans of the stuff that came after them, and there's some decent movies that came after them. But like the first one would have been great just as a standalone, and it would have been kind of legendary status more than it already is, you know, if they just stopped right there, because it was like the perfect wrap up to the movie, you know. It was a one and done, would have been great, but you know, a lot of the sequels were pretty good and real popular. So I'm not saying I don't want them done. I just after watching Cult of Chucky recently, I was like, yeah, this is just over. I mean, the whole shtick is kind of done with now. It was innovative at the time, but we've seen it here and in other places, and it's just kind of, I think it's ran its course. Just go ahead and let it go, I'd say. But sorry for any Child's Play fans out there. So, second part of the question is, which franchise do you want to see make a big comeback? And man, I had to think hard about this, because it's so difficult now, because with a lot of the, like, if you look at some of the newer horror remakes, like, some of the newer Texas Chainsaw Massacres, like this, which is what Stevel says is one of the ones he wanted to end, I think. You know, the Friday the 13th reboot, the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, they're a little too slick and polished, and most good horror movies are not such, you know. They are down and dirty and gritty, and now everyone looks like an Abercrombie model, you know. So, with all that being said, as much as I would like to say I would like to see Nightmare on Elm Street stopped, it could be good in the future, because like the nightmare aspects of those movies lend itself well to more CGI technology, even though it has to be well done, and I definitely prefer practical, don't get me wrong whatsoever.
You're right.
The same goes with Hellraiser. There's a lot of things, because of the supernatural like attributes of the Cenobites and their realm and all that, that can be realized fairly well with good, once again, good CGI on top of the practical. So, you know, both those movies could have some good stuff written for them, as long as it was a project of love, a labor of love by the filmmakers, not just a quick cash grab to, you know, keep the license alive or whatever. So, I won't say those, but I will say I'd like to see Friday the 13th return to its glory days. I know it's not the deepest of series, and the lore is kind of all over the place, to say the least. The remake from 2009 was kind of a good step, but it was bad too at the same time. It was enjoyable, but really wasn't totally my cup of tea. Had a good Jason, really good Jason, but everything else is kind of forgettable. That was one of the cases of being a little too slick and polished. It was nice that it got a big budget. Like, these movies cry for a big budget. But don't use it on, like, the top set pieces and that sort of thing. You know, keep it down and dirty, keep it closer to the chest, as it were. So I would like to see another gritty Friday the 13th film come out there, because Jason Voorhees needs even if it's only a proper send-off, he needs a proper send-off movie. Something that gives a little service to the fans of old. Maybe some, I don't want to say like cover swipe, like homage kills or anything like that, but just maybe some familiar scenery. Not so much familiar protagonist, or maybe a familiar look for Jason. They could try to recreate his Part 7 look or something, and forget that 8 and everything after didn't happen, happened or whatever. I don't know, but I'd like to see Friday the 13th return to its former glory, because I think that the overall premise of movies could still make money. You put people in awkward situations out there to get stalked and butchered by the masked, silent protagonist killer. Same thing as Halloween, but Halloween's been rebooted and remade, so he's getting his time in the sun. But I'd say it's time for Jason to get a really good send-off, if nothing else. One more good movie at least, or a series of them, but make them in the vein of the Paramount movies, you know what I mean? Like I said, and try not to make Jason too sympathetic, you know what I mean? They go so hard to make him a sympathetic character, and a good bad guy doesn't have to be sympathetic. Yes, he had the tragic backstory, so we all are aware of that. That doesn't really need to be expanded upon any. I don't need to hear about childhood traumas or anything further than that. He's now committed to evil acts, and that's all we need to know. So keep him mysterious, keep him spooky, keep him silent, and I think all will be well. So, okay, that was a long-winded explanation of all that, but let's move on to the third and final question, and that is to tell people something about yourself that they probably don't know. Well, I've been on YouTube for a few years, so there are almost no secrets left out there worth noting, but I guess one that I never have talked about would be back, how long ago was this? maybe 2002 through about 2010, mostly 2002 through about 2005. I was a self-taught, self-trained submission wrestler. I go through a couple tourneys and all that. I mean, I didn't do too great or anything. I didn't do it full time, but a friend and I, actually a couple friends and I, but one in particular, who ended up being a roommate later, we were at any given time, anytime we could get together, we would get together and do submission wrestling. We would do it in the grass in the front yard, in the gym, on the mats or whatever, in the dojo, because we both took Aikido together too back then. That's how it all got started. But so we would rent videos, and it was so primitive back then. Like, I would see like a submission move, and I would try to get like photos of it and then recreate it so I could try to learn it, just by rote. And then you get into feeling all that. But I was in pretty good shape back then and had really good cardio. It was just something I just enjoyed, loved doing. Hadn't been on the mat in years.
I've never been nice my whole life.
For those of you who don't know what it is, it's kind of, think of like UFC, but no strikes, right? So when they're tied up and grappling and going to try to make someone else submit, tap out, that's submission wrestling in a nutshell. I didn't like gi. We didn't barely ever use the gi. I liked it, shorts and a t-shirt. More pure that way, I'd say, right? But yeah, so that's something I don't think I've ever mentioned before. So hopefully that meets the criteria okay, and that's all really. I always mean to make these things shorter, and it never seems to happen. So anyway, big grats, Evil Stevel, on the road to 350. I know it's a long haul, especially if you're in the early going. So just keep the nose to the grindstone, and good things will happen. So all right. I'll go and wrap it up for here. Wow, I haven't done Conscious Entry so long, I kind of forgot what I had to do, right? Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content here in the near future, probably review content. I have a couple of request videos I need to get done. And if you haven't, go take a look at EvilStevel's channel. See if you like what you see. Throw him a sub. Hey, let's get him 350 fast as possibly can. So anyway, thanks again. Until next time, this is Genome. Just finally remembering his days on the mat when he was actually in shape.